Hey there, and welcome to your favorite history channel, where we bring you fascinating stories about the most remarkable events, landmarks, establishments, and personalities in history. In today's video, we'll be detailing the history of one of the most monumental buildings ever constructed in human history, the Sagrada Familia building in Barcelona, and highlighting the estimated cost of Spain's most iconic landmark. But before we get into the details about this historical monument, kindly support this channel by giving this video a like, hit the subscribe button and smash the notification bell to receive notifications of when we post more captivating historical videos like this one. Do leave us a comment as well, as we'd love to read your opinion about the grandeur of the Sagrada Familia. The Basilica de la Sagrada Familia, more commonly referred to as the Sagrada Familia, is a Roman Catholic minor basilica located in Barcelona. The story of this still under construction architectural monument began all the way back in 1866, when a congregation of devotees to St. Joseph had the idea of building a temple in his honor. In 1874, a local organization would continue the campaign for the construction of a church in the honor of the Holy Family. After nearly a decade of drawing up plans, the cornerstone of the church was officially laid on the 19th of March 1882, on a day also known as the Feast of San Jose, and in the middle of a 12,000 square meter piece of land. The construction work began under the supervision of the original architect, Francisco de Paula del Villar Lozano. But after creative differences with the developers, Lozano quit the project and was replaced by Antonio Gaudi in 1883. While Lozano's original design showcased a neo-Gothic design based on medieval Gothic church structures, Gaudi reworked the plan and focused on a modernist creation, something that had never been seen in the world. While Gaudi remained committed to the original Gothic style by Lozano, he also felt that this design was naturally limited, as medieval Gothic structures relied heavily on large support structures called buttresses, and Gaudi did not want to imitate this. He believed that God's house should be free of bulky supports, yet limitless in its height and grandeur. To resolve this problem, Gaudi turned to nature, seeking inspiration in what he saw as God's architecture. Despite taking over the project in 1883, Gaudi still worked on other projects, and it would not be until 1914 that he would begin working exclusively on the temple until his death. By 1923, Gaudi had finished his sketches of the basilica, and the church's first tower on the Nativity Facade was finished in 1925. As luck would have it, it was the only Sagrada Familia tower Gaudi would see in his life, as he died on June 10, 1926. Gaudi conceived this facade to be largely traditional but mixed with bold architectural innovations. During the origins of Sagrada Familia, Gaudi set up his workshop and the space in which he lived the last years of his life inside the construction site. Since 1914 to 1926, the year of his death, he only worked on the Sagrada Familia and also built temporary schools for the education of children in the neighborhood and construction workers. Upon Gaudi's death, his disciple Domènec Sugranyes took over the project, and the construction of the basilica continued to advance very slowly. In 1930, the bell towers of the Nativity Facade were finished, and in 1933, the Portal of the Faith and the central cypress were completed. From the beginning of the construction of the temple, the cost of materials and work was paid by voluntary donations. Today, thanks to a large influx of visitors from all nationalities and belief, construction work at the site is going on at a much higher speed. While a lot of people still see the Sagrada Familia as mainly being a Christian church, it's not uncommon to find opinions of those who believe that the building could become a universal symbol of faith. Spain would become enmeshed in a civil war, which would come to have huge consequences on the Sagrada Familia. A large part of Gaudi's vision and the majority of his ideas were destroyed in a fire set by anarchists in 1936. Since the Civil War ended, 3 generations of architects have been needed to rebuild the project's DNA, working tirelessly to bring the project back to life. Despite still largely being a work in progress, the Sagrada Familia is undoubtedly the most visited tourist attraction in the whole of Spain, even making history in 1984 when it was officially recognized as being a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Following the end of the Civil War, work began on the foundations for all the naves, the columns, vaults and facades on the main nave, transepts, crossings, and apse. The work was completed in 2010, with the church also being officially consecrated as a basilica by Pope Benedict XVI the same year. The most interesting thing about this architectural monument is how distinctly different its design is in terms of both structure and ornament. Another highlight of the church is its interior, which holds covered passages which form a rectangle around the church and pass through a narthex of its 3 portals. Also, unlike most other churches around the world, the Sagrada Familia doesn't boast of exact right angles within or outside its structure, and very few straight lines exist in the design. The Sagrada Familia has 3 facades, which were all completely designed by Gaudi before his death. The Nativity facade, along with the Glory facade and the Passion facade, were all of Gaudi's original idea. The Nativity facade was constructed between 1894 and 1930 and is the only part of the Sagrada Familia that Gaudi saw built in his lifetime. The facade is intricately designed and richly ornamented, with different marble animals and also a huge tree of life, surrounded by white marble doves. It is symbolic of birth, life, and light, and symbolizes the birth of Christ. The Nativity facade is accessible via 3 doors, which likewise symbolize the 3 theological values of the Christian faith. Work on the Passion facade started in 1954 and was completed in 1976. This facade represents the passion, death, and resurrection of Christ and has a skeletal, with pillars which resemble bones as well as other expressive sculptures that essentially reenact and accurately depict the last week of Christ's life. This facade further has unique scenes sculpted into its design and being of 3 levels: Jesus' last night before crucifixion at the lowest level, the cavalry and the death of Christ at the middle level, and the burial and resurrection of Christ at the highest level. The Glory facade, which is deemed to be the most important amongst the 3 facades of the Sagrada Familia, represents Christ's eternal glory and is the only facade that is yet to be completed. Although unfinished, it is already the tallest of all the towers, featuring scenes of Christ's rise to heaven and eternal bliss. Work on the Glory facade began only in 2002, and Gaudi was well aware that construction of the Glory facade would not be completed in his lifetime. So, he drew just a few sketches with a general idea of what his vision and plan was, which included the representations of death, final judgment, hell, and glory. Over 140 years since the construction of the Sagrada Familia commenced, it is now scheduled to be completed in 2026 on the centennial of Gaudi's death. When it's finished, the basilica will be the tallest religious building in Europe, standing at 564 feet. While the actual overall cost that has been expended on constructing this monumental structure is largely unavailable, available records as published by the Spanish media outlet El País revealed that the estimated overall cost to see out the completion of the construction of the Sagrada Familia is slightly over $390 million. The report was contained in the newspaper's publication in 2019. The church already receives 4.5 million visitors annually, earning an estimated annual income of $90 million from ticket sales since its official opening in 2010. Annual construction budget on the structure since then is an estimated $60 million. This would imply that since 2010, about $720 million has been expended on construction work at the basilica. A conservative estimate by experts has put the total construction cost of the Sagrada Familia since commencement in 1882 at around $5 billion. Builders of the church recently reached an agreement with the government on Barcelona to end more than 130 years of legal limbo that has seen the construction work on the building proceed without a proper license. The permit for the structure also cost $4.8 million, breaking the record for the most expensive permit in Barcelona's modern history, beating the $1.98 million for the refurbishment of the Sant Pau Hospital. The large influx of visitors to the church has put a lot of pressure on local infrastructure, which has forced many neighborhood residents to protest over the impact of the church's surging tourist traffic. The Sagrada Familia will now make a $41 million payment to the Catalonian city to address the impact of the project on public services. $25 million will go to improving public transportation citywide, $8 million for a new access point from the local metro station to the church, $4.56 million to reconfigure the surrounding streets, and $3.4 million towards their maintenance. A $5 billion construction cost is truly only befitting for a monumental edifice as the Sagrada Familia.